afternoon to everyone. Welcome to the session. It's delightful to be with you, Rashmi, once again, and I would love to have this conversation. So, Whistles of the Siphoong. Uh, please do tell us some bit about how you wrote this, when you started, and then we'll carry forward after that.
Very good afternoon. Siphoong. I guess a lot of you already know what a siphoong is. Sangeeta, you know, I think. It is the flute. In Bodo, it is the flute. And whistles of the siphoong is the tune of the flute. And there are three friends, well above 60. One plays the flute, one plays the kham, which is the long drum. The Bodos call it the kham. And the third friend plays the cymbals, the jota. So it is through these musical instruments that three friends weave through the lores, legends, and history and tradition of our people, the Bodo community. We talk about, the friends talk about the Bacho Kerai, the friends talk about Besagu, Baruma, and a whole lot of things. And these are fiction, these are stories, and these are not folk tales. These are based in folk tales because whenever I'm writing a story and I'm telling something about the Kerai Puja, the Dodini, I definitely have to take basis from my legends, but these are not the legends themselves because folklore and legends do not have authors. They are authorless and they come down from generations. So this is about Whistles of the Siphoong. I'll just read from the back page and then I lend it over to my niece, Jitubonu. Old Ochai has never loved anyone or anything more than his Siphoong, the flute. Sometimes Ochai Siphoong overpowers scary spirits, and sometimes it brings heaven's deity down to earth. It cajoles the skies to rain and it moves fire. It captivates reptiles just as its gentle lullaby soothes an unborn baby. It even helps an innocent youth see his dying mother and escape the clutches of the army. And when I talk about the clutches of the army, I'm talking about the Aksu agitation. This is the power I'm talking about that music has on people. Spirits in human, serpents in skies, fire, fireflies, all surrender to the magic of Ochai's music. It is the miraculous melody from his Siphoong that weaves through the fabric of lore, legend, and culture of the Bodos of Assam in Whistles of the Siphoong. The 8 tales in this collection move through the real and fantastical to bring alive the threads of joy, compassion, and care that connect humans to nature and tradition, to stories in music, and above all, to each other. This is the basic of the 8 stories in this book, and now I hand it over to Gigi.
So, Ojai is also a character in Singing the Spring Song, the short story that written in 2022. And it records the COVID times wonderfully. So, would you please share with us the journey of Ojai from Singing the Spring Song to Whistles of the Siphoong?
Ochai's journey has been a long one, but he has remained on the same age. This is the magic of stories. So Ochai, the story that she mentions was taken by Yomu from the Japan Foundation, and that has been translated into Japanese as well. And Ochai from those days to Ochai to Whistles of the Siphoong has remained the same, just that his 2 friends have joined him. This is his journey, and there are more musical instruments, there are more lores that are included, and there are more feelings of Ojai that I explore and I narrate. I'm keeping it short. Yes.
That's wonderful. I would like to go to what Ojai says right in the beginning. I really love what he says. Plant the bamboo and you get a flute in return. Life is a barter. Is Ojai expounding the tribal philosophy of life, the cohabitation with nature? Is it doing that?
Yes, Ojai definitely is doing that. He has his own way of expression, he has his own way of narration, and sometimes he refuses to agree to my style of narration. He says, no, I'm not going to agree to yours. I will play my flute and express my own. So this is when he says that life is a barter. In this particular story, he tells the tale of the Jombi Fair, which is a fair near Morika district of Assam, and which is mainly, though not entirely, on barter. So here Ojai says that you plant a bamboo and you get a fruit. So this also he is telling of how the tribal society and tribal lifestyle is mostly dependent on nature, and our history, our medicines, our culture, everything has something connected to nature. And this is also very scientific. Our medicines come from there, and whenever we harvest, whenever we plant, we look for battle. Like Manjri Prabhu had just said, there's a consultation with the horoscopes. The tribal way of life is a consultation with environment, with nature, with the climate, and with the surroundings. So this is somehow connected with nature, and it is like this. Just the other day, Dr. Anil Boro is here, who is an authority on folklore from Guwahati University. So just the other day, he and I were at a seminar at the Guwahati University. So we were talking about folklore, ecology, and literature, how they are connected. So why folklore takes care of ecology? I think literature takes care of folklore. There is total dependency, and which is why Ojai comes and says that you plant a bamboo and you get a flute. And somewhere along the same story, he says, you give love, you get love. And he also says, in the course of the same story, towards the end, he is not in a mind frame, in a mindset to barter his Siphoong for anything else other than respect for the Siphoong. If someone doesn't have anything to pay for his Siphoong, he is still okay with it, provided the taker takes the Siphoong, pays it well, and imparts the knowledge to other passionate people, people who would like to play the flute very passionately. So this is how his connect is. It's the connection that matters.
It's also very telling on the larger ecological questions that we are dealing with now. What you give to nature, you give it back. Yeah, so the way you live with nature, you harm nature, you get harmed back. So this is, I think, which is very deeply ingrained in tribal philosophy. And this is what, when it's the whistles of the Siphoong, it's not only a musical instrument, but it is also, this larger aspect of our life in this world.
I would just like to tell, I'm interrupting in between. When she says the tribal way of life with nature, whistles of the Siphoong is also like this. When we pray, when we need to appease the deities, we think, we believe that we need the help of music. And the very basic, the most simplest of all musical instruments I feel, is the flute. It is very basic. And how do you play the Siphoong? You blow into it. You breathe into it. It is your soul that you give into the Siphoong. So this is how you appease the deities. And in one of the stories, the shaman, it is through these flutes that the deity, the goddess, is requested to come and enter for the dodimi. Yes, we believe that the goddess comes and enters a woman. So she is the dodimi, she is the shaman. And for this particular descendants of the deity into the women, we need music, and it is the flute that we breathe into. It is our soul that we put into the Siphoong flute. So this is the connect.
So, because Siphoong, Kham, and Jodha, these are all connected to our not only our cultural life as such, not only the celebrations, but also the religious rituals that we practice. Do we see these two aspects of our musical instruments coming together in your book? Because we have seen the Vaisakhu, the singing and the celebration part, also the rituals, the religious part.
Okay. Yes. There also is the coming of not just the two jitu. This is the music part of the musical part of tribal society comes not just in celebrations but also in religious aspects, as well as there are other stories. This is what I explore in these stories. There is this particular story where it is during the Yaksu agitation, and there are army people all over the village. They're trying to locate a particular youth, and all the youth have already fled from the village. They are either in the training camps somewhere in the jungles of Burma, or they have fled in fear of being taken captive by the police, the military. So, in one particular, there's this particular night where a group of army people come into the village and happen to storm into Ojai's courtyard. So Ojai plays the Siphoong, and this is the magic of the Siphoong, how he enthralls the people. And in the meantime, there is this particular young boy whose mother is dying, and he runs all the way from Guwahati to meet his dying mother, and his mother is dying because she has had a stroke, because the younger brother has been tortured by the police because he could not give the whereabouts of his elder brother. So when the butchered and mutilated body of the younger brother comes home, packed up like butchered pig into the courtyard, the mother suffers a stroke. So when the elder son comes to meet his mother, Ojai knows that the boy has to be protected, and he has to be given the security to meet his mother and go back safely away from the clutches of the police. So this is when a whole lot of musical extravaganza goes in Ojai's courtyard, how he holds the policeman in his courtyard, and meantime the other boy comes and meets his mother, hugs his goodbyes and all, and he's been able to escape. So the musical aspect of Boro culture, of tribal culture, of I think culture in the universe, is not just about religious aspects, not just about celebrations, but in every other thing. So here music helps a boy to escape the clutches of the army, and in other stories, music helps a party to start during the Magundomasi. Magundomasi is, the Mag Bihur Urukar junto আমি ভোজ খাওঁ সেইটো বড়োসকলে মাঘীডোমাচি বুলি কয় সো সেই ভোজৰ সময়ৰ জুইকুৰা জ্বলা নাছিলে ওঝাই চিফুং বজায় চিফুঙৰ ভোৰে জুইকুৰা জ্বলায়. So this is how music is not just about celebrations or about religious aspects. Music is our life.
Referring to the healing aspect and the medical aspect. So let's then come to the language part of your writing. Whenever a non-native speaker of English writes in English, there's always this question of language and how you're dealing with it. So when we look at your text, when we look at your writing, I see a lot of Boro words being sprinkled here and there. For example, words like kaplai, Colonial, and Kelai, all of this sit very comfortably within the English language narrative of the text. So I would want to know your opinion or how you came upon this decision or what do you think about it in mainstreaming? I'm going to call it mainstreaming. Mainstreaming Bodo language and Bodo culture because you are the first who is writing fiction in Bodo, the first Bodo who is writing fiction in English. So I would want to know how you deal with this language and
Thank you, Gitu. That's wonderful. She's actually done her homework very well. Last night, the two of us were sitting and she says, Auntie, is this okay? I said, okay. Auntie, is that okay? I said, all right, that's also okay. As long as you're, grilling me, not so much as a child would be grilled by the teacher. So, yeah, she's talking about the language aspect. When I am writing a story set in rural Bodo villages, of course, rural is village, so in a Bodo setup, I don't think a very English exclamation would work there. I don't think a name like Bernadette or a name like Julia would work there. Which is why my earlier book, the one that got the Scientific Academy for Children's Literature, there the protagonist was called Barsao, which is a very normal and common Bodo name. And now Jitu is asking me about Kamplai. Kamplai is what we call in Ohomia Pira. Kathor Poro Pira. Ami Boro Kokole Kamplai Buli Kong. And the word should sit like this, so that even if you don't Google and even if you don't discuss a Bodo dictionary, you know it is something close to that. When I say Ojai put the Kamplai close to the fire and put his behind on it, so you know what else will he put his behind on? And putting it close to the fire, it definitely is not going to be a ball of meat. So this is when we know Kamplai has something to do with something to sit on, Murha, Pira. And if it's a wooden Kamplai, it is a wooden Kathor Pira. And then she says Onla Kari. Pranav very familiar with Onla Kari. Onla Kari is a very typical Bodo dish, which is made of rice flour. And it is the gravy of rice flour where we add chicken or meat of choice or sometimes some herbs also. Yeah. So when a non-Bodo reads the line, and because the whole story is written in English, so when a non-Bodo reads the line, they should know it's a kind of dish, it's a kind of delicacy. Not oh, you're welcome to my house. You're welcome to my house. And of course, we add a little bit of curry to it. Curry is the khar, a khar. So the khar in Bodo we call it curry. Actually, the dishes are very close to Ohomia dishes also, with a little bit of modification here and there. So when you're reading it, you should not feel that what is this Onla curry. You should know it's a dish. Okay, we have read foreign authors. We have read how a particular dish, Jean Poulia Shala, who we don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I invented the word just now. I don't know if it has a meaning at all. But when you read such words in a line, you know it's a food item. So this is how it should sit like that. And there is another word, habab, I use. Habab is an exclamation. Oh ma, ayodhe. That particular exclamation in Bodos we will say, ayo habab. So this is it, and a particular body language may also go with it. Ayo habab. That means you're really too surprised. Ayo habab. That means you're not really as surprised. You are surprised, but you're a little less surprised. And we also have this other thing, for our people, we are very high on our body language and emotional things, but we're very mostly low on our vocabulary. So if I tell about someone, she's so beautiful, That means she's very beautiful. Ah, she's so beautiful. That means she's less beautiful. So this is another thing, and this is how language should sit very comfortably with whatever you're writing, or whatever I'm writing, and I prefer very very simple language. I want my stories to be read by a 7-year-old. I want my stories to be read by a 75-year-old, and everyone in between. So this is how it is.
Now, I guess all of us are eager to have a taste of that language. So perhaps you could read us a few passages.
Do we have the time? I'll just go through a small passage. Right. This I have picked from Escape, the one I told you about, how this boy escapes the clutches of the army while Ojai keeps the army on hold in his courtyard. So this is how it goes. Ojai then pointed towards the kitchen and began to tell the army men, "It's dark, it's night, and Ojai's daughter-in-law is alone in the kitchen, and Ojai is holding the army people outside. You see," he says to the army people, "they both are similar, women and the Siphoong." He compares the Siphoong to women. "They both can amazingly play as many notes as even the gods have not yet created." One more army man went and sat on the raised veranda of the northern hutment in front of the door to Ojai's room. Now the Boro household setup is like this. We have a central courtyard, and we have the hutments all around the courtyard, the different rooms, individual rooms. Another leaned against a wooden post next to him. Ojai shifted from broken Hindi to hand gestures to facial expressions, and then to a rise and fall of pitch as he spoke to the men. Hand gestures and facial expressions. This is what I told you about a while ago. Because Ojai doesn't know how to speak Hindi, which perhaps the army men can speak, and Ojai doesn't know how to speak English. Making every effort to make them understand his narrative and at the same time to veil the turbulence in his heart. She can be a grandmother, Ojai tells about a woman. She can be a grandmother, he pointed once more with his Siphoong towards the kitchen, one that sings the gentlest of lullabies, or one that rolls her eyes and spews fire to discipline. Ojai raised the Siphoong to his lips and played a tune so soft and lilting that he was sure he heard one of the men sniffle. "That," he exclaimed, "is the grandmother singing a lullaby." This he tells not of a woman, but this he tells of tune of the Siphoong. Then he quickly shifted to a fast, pulsating tune for the chastising grandmother. "Then there is the younger sister," he says, "who persuades her elder brother to bring her a pair of silver earrings when he comes home on leave." The Siphoong's notes now rose and fell, sometimes in brisk little waves, and sometimes in long, low, and persuading tones, as if demanding and beseeching at the same time, like the brisk, prancing, and low sulk of a little sister. One from the army men propped his weapon between his legs and, digging into an inner pocket of his thick uniform, pulled out a brown envelope, folded twice over. He unfolded it as he walked towards Ojai and pulled out what turned out to be a family photograph. So he is actually softening and mellowing down the army people in search of rebellious youth in the village. This, he said, holding the picture up for some moonlight to shine on it, and pointing at a girl with two ribboned braids falling on either side of her chest and a pretty smile, "is my sister, Payal, She is getting married next week, and I had promised her a pair of earrings as a gift. His voice then chokes. I didn't get leave to go home. Slowly, the Siphoong's notes began to seep deeper into the hearts of the army men and stirred their souls. Birkhang and Demalu glided into the courtyard even as nervousness rose from their guts and flooded their hearts. Walking into a courtyard full of army men at a time when they had villages in the grip of terror was no old man's song and dance. Even the uniformed men looked at Birkhang and Demalu with some suspicion. But artful that Ojai was, he convinced both sides and the impromptu concert resumed. Alone inside the kitchen, his daughter-in-law grew more and more restless as memories and stories of police atrocities and army insurgent clashes began to haunt her in the darkness. Each time she stopped hearing the Siphoong, her heart too stopped beating, again only when the Siphoong's notes soared. I think just about that much. Thank you so much for giving me a good teacher.
I guess no matter what story we tell, we cannot escape what we have gone through, the army, the conflict, and call them folklore, call them, the, tales right, from the villages, but then they are so intrinsically tied with what lives we have lived around that time in the 90s and early 2000s. I think I'll open the floor for questions now, if there are any questions from the audience.
Can anyone see my knee shaking? Even if you do, please say you don't see them. Because this is the time I'm most scared of. Yeah, when the audience asks me questions, I think it is so much easier to write stories than to face questions.
But I'll ask you a very simple one. I'm from an army background.
Right.
And hearing that is not nice.
Hearing which is not nice.
Whatever you've been talking about.
See, I think it is, we cannot say from just one side. Those times have been those times have been difficult for both the sides. What I tell here is the army men, one is looking forward to go to his sister's wedding. The sister writes a letter to him saying she needs a pair of silver earrings for her wedding, but the Jawan doesn't get leave. So that's really sad for him. So there has been sadness in the army side, there has been sadness in the villagers side. So we cannot exactly zero down on one particular side. And there have been a lot of other political issues and a whole lot of issues that have come in. And
Likewise, I was listening to also but my ears were there. And that was a little bit of a, I was getting a very disturbing feeling with it. But then the food took over, and that was like, I was salivating.
okay, I really welcome you to my face. So this is it, those days were really difficult. And in another story somewhere else, I've written how it was very difficult for the borrows in the non-borrow areas, and it was equally difficult for the non-borrows in the borrow areas. So both sides had its tone. Oh yes, Baidu, please.
The night was it's just an observation.
It's just an observation.
Yes.
And since we are talking of books and conflict and borrow and non-borrow, there is this marvelous book, Felani, which the Assamese readers must have read,
Yes.
by Urpa Kolita, where the protagonist is a Bengali woman, and the borrow, Felani, she's thrown away, and she moves from place to place trying to make a home everywhere. But I find, and I'm sure it's there in your book also. Her story is not just about the Bengali woman. It's also the person who is suffering and the power of the person who is wielding that power is actually the ethnicity is not important. It is the suffering that is important.
It is the
I
suffering.
feel, yeah.
It is actually the suffering, and it is not about army against Boro, Boro against army. It is not that. Here it is how music holds the people. Music holds some people because music wants another boy who wants to go and meet his Dalit mother. That is the universal feeling. It could happen in a Boro village, it could happen in a village in Russia, it could happen anywhere else. It can happen in my very own backyard in Dispur. So this is just the setting because a story needs a setting. This is the setting. Yes.
If I may add to that, in singing a spring song, it is about Ojai and Santhal boy and how they bond through Ojai's music. And during the times of COVID, they go back. There is a memory of the Boro Santhal riots and how the break happened. But then the COVID and music brings them together.
Can I ask a question?
It's a simple one, please.
Yes,
Okay.
I hope so. You spoke very eloquently about finding your own comforts and including Boro words into your English writing. But at the same time, the English language is undeniably type of a colonial imposition on us. And to what extent do you think, in that context, the reader also holds responsibility in trying to, get an idea of what those words are? Do you feel like the reader should have enough responsibility to educate themselves about the culture, about what those particular words mean, and do you feel that it is not solely your responsibility to make the reader comfortable? Yeah, I'm talking about research beyond your book, about the context.
Because I am solely a storyteller, these particular words, when we are talking in context of this particular book, I make sure I have a glossary at the back of the book. Yes. So now, of course, we are discussing on that Khadil, but I do have a glossary always at the back. And because I like to bring nativity into my stories, I wouldn't like my protagonists and my little children calling their grandparents and granddad or grandmom. They don't call. They call Abai. Abai is grandmother and Abu is Koka, grandfather. So all of these will have a glossary at the back. And as regards colonialism, I think this is just a binding language. It is just a binding language, just as I speak very, very, very fluent Assam. In fact, I have translated Dr. Ravindranath Tagore into English. I speak very fluent Hindi, and I'm not boasting, but I'm just saying that English as a medium I'm more comfortable with, which is what I write in it. And I think this is one medium where I can take my culture to a global platform. Because when I'm writing in Boro, when I'm telling my stories in Boro, and only Boro people can read them, it is like I know this very lovely and elegant lady, she bakes amazing cakes. You know her, you don't know her. Because her cakes don't go out of her house. Only her children and I got a chance once to eat her cakes. So when her cakes stay at home, however fine and fluffy and spongy her cakes are, the world doesn't know about them. Likewise is a culture. However fine and polished and rich it is, as long as it just stays and circulates like in an air-conditioned room, it doesn't go out of the room. People don't know about the culture. Like people didn't know about that particular lady's case. Which is why I think the onus lies in all of us, not just me, to take our heritage, our culture, let people know about it. And once a story, a culture has been spoken about in English, I think it is easier for it to get translated into other languages. So more people know about drivers of all.
That is exactly the important best, when I'm as perceived by Priyati and Jyotsna. Take all that take all that Northeast and Assam in particular offers in the form of art and literature to mainstream as well as international. That's the whole idea, yeah.
Exactly.
And that is the reason a little disappointed with the, nobody has really turned up because this is what the youth, your, say, Boro or any other tribe or, a community from here, your literature is so rich. Such beautiful stories. Like you just said, you mentioned yours and Google has written so many. If that is, translated in different languages, it could be translated in Chinese.
Yes.
Or Japanese, and it's sent out. Can we imagine? That's when I personally feel that the culture of reading again, wanting to watch quality movies, will be back again. Now we are all into our phones, watching horrible content on social media. I think that has to end, and we, as consciously can take this forward. But just on a funny note, let me tell. I was telling Mitra Bo that. Both. Yeah, so we were neighbors, and there were these Boro families who were around in the neighborhood, and we had a nice water body, like a stream, running under the gate. And they would come and they would catch fish, like that in those baskets. Okay. So I was half the time in that water body with them, catching. So my childhood memories are so rich. I have had all kinds of exposure, and that's the reason I don't know how Jyotsna landed up at my place and how I am here. I said, yes, this is my opportunity to, do something for the state I grew up, and I personally feel I'm quite alright and okay out here.
And in fact, like you said about catching fish, we Boros we are fond of good food, and if we have fish, we have to catch it ourselves. It has to be fresh fish, and we have a lot of names for a lot of fish, and interesting stories about every fish. We have laws and folk legends about every fish, and do we have time for just a small paragraph, please, Parashi? All right. I have this story where the Magadamasi community fishing, Mag Bihur Urukar যোনটো community fishing হয়, সেইটোৰ এটা description আছে, এটা particular story. And I just read this one phrase because this thing about small fish came up. Here I go then, Ochai shouted back. Get them kobais, ready for some delicious catch. Kobai, jakui kalui. The kalui is the kobai. Swaying and tapping his feet, he began to blow his Siphoong. Birkan is one of his friends. Birkan struck his cum and it roared to life. Bemalu clapped his hands in rhythm to Birkan's cum and began to sing. The water is cold, hey Jaro, the water is cold. Do lift your duffna so high. Fish and crab we shall grab and fill your empty kobai. As the song rang above the waters, more people from there joined Demalu while still at their fishing. The hyacinth we shall choke aside, if we can't, may woe betide. Dipping the polo, dipping the jekai. Jekai is the jokai. We shall surely fill your kobai. Jaro keep ready the salt and chili, jopide and omakasi. Jopide is our home brewed rice beer, and omakasi is pork meat. will fill your khobai with snail pedigree. Snail is snail and pedigree. Pranav, it's a kind of fish now, pedigree. Puthi mas. Puthi mas to ami boro na pedigree boli kau. Na mane mas. Will fill your khobai with snail pedigree for the feast of Magadamasi. These are not folklore, these are not folk rhymes, these are my verses. I have made them up. So this I read because you said so fondly about fishing. Thank you so much. Yes.
I guess if there are no more questions, we will end here, right? And we are waiting. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rashmi Narzary ma'am. Thank you so much, Jitumoni Borgozari ma'am, for joining us on the stage today. I would like Jitumoni Basumazari ma'am. Here's our founder, Prachi. She's going to felicitate the speakers on the stage right now. A huge round of applause for Rashmi Narzary and Jitumoni Basumazari.